Welcome and hello to another episode of r/ProRevenge. My name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's video. Before I do though, I'd just really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest videos. He punched me over a fender bender. I destroyed his life. I was working as a civilian with the US military overseas, and I lived off base in an apartment complex, popular among the US military. One morning, I accidentally hit another soldier's vehicle. Upon exiting the vehicle, I noticed that both our vehicles were what you could call a hoop tie. A hoop tie is an old car that's pretty beat up and has been passed around from service to service member, and they generally sell for $1,000 to $2,000. I also recognized that I was at fault for the accident. It was a very minor accident. His rear bumper was dented in slightly, but I could hear both our cars still running. I approached the driver, who had already gotten out, and he was in uniform, so I apologized and said if I was alright with him, that I'd like to negotiate a payment that I will pay him in cash, and that we don't have to involve the authorities. I wanted to keep this simple. I'll be honest, the accident was so minor, I honestly expected him to say, "Nah man, it's good." But even if he wants some money, I'd have to pay him. I've always been of the opinion that if you have a fender bender and can negotiate agreeable terms between both the parties, it's best not to involve insurance or police. He told me he wanted to call the police, and I said we could call the police or we could go on base together and I could give him $300. He said that wasn't enough, so I upped my offer to $500. He proceeded to punch me in the face. It was a sucker punch. He got into his car and took off, and in the process nearly ran me over. No, I had a black box in my car which recorded everything. I went to the Provost Marshal office on base, the police station, and reported the accident and the assault and showed the MP the footage, which they used his license plate to track him down. I was also asked if I wanted to involve the local authorities / press criminal charges off base. Honestly, I felt like the soldier would learn his lesson if I let UMC, the military court, basically handle this and said, "Not at this time." I was told it was an option. The end result was the soldier in question got 60 days of extra duty, reduction in rank, and forfeited a portion of his paycheck. Essentially, if he dealt with that, this would have been the end of the whole ordeal. Honestly, at this point, I assumed our little ordeal was over. Well, a few days after his punishment was decided on, which was not long after the incident itself, I was in the commissary, grocery store on base, shopping when the soldier who assaulted me saw me and began to insult me. I told him he needed to calm down and that he should learn his lesson. He told me I was a pussy who didn't know how to take a punch. I reminded him that I held back on destroying his life, and he told me he's already been punished and I can't touch him again. He left me be. A store employee witnessed the entire encounter, and I got the employee detail and reported this interaction to his command. His commander told me he had been ordered to not interact with me and would take action. His commander also recommended me I involve the local authorities, since this soldier obviously isn't learning his lesson. So I did. I contacted an attorney, and the attorney was unsure if we could successfully sue the soldier and said he would need a cash payment to take the case. Honestly, I was mad and I wanted to teach this guy a lesson. I agreed, and it was not cheap. To keep the story short, we ended up in a court off base. We presented our evidence. The soldier in question had decided to represent himself. Several times in the court he had outbursts. The judge ended up granting me a judgment of approximately 50,000 USD, and when the judgment was given, the soldier called the judge a son of a bitch, and that the army would cover for him. So the judge changed his judgment to 80,000, and the judge then asked me if I wanted to press charges against the soldier in criminal court. Honestly, it was obvious this guy wasn't going to learn a lesson, and I told the judge I wanted to pursue criminal charges in addition to the judgment. My lawyer later advised me that if I ever wanted to see the money, I should pursue an international hold. With my judgment, it's likely that a judge would grant me an international hold. An international hold is basically where the soldier would not be allowed to leave the country until I was paid my $80,000. Also, he told me that according to the agreement between the US military and the host country, the US military would honor the international hold. Basically, the US military would not protect him or move him out of a country to avoid punishment. Honestly, by this point, I had paid my lawyer thousands of dollars, and I honestly didn't feel like paying thousands of dollars and getting nothing for it. So I said yes, I want to go forward with the international hold. About a month later, the international hold was granted, and the US military was informed of this. 2 months after the criminal case was over, and the soldier was sentenced to 90 days in jail. By this point, the soldier had been moved onto the base and to his barracks by his commander. I remember the day I was informed the MPs handed him over to the local authorities to begin his 90-day jail sentence. Did I mention he still owed me $80,000? I heard nothing for a year, and then one day I get a call from his commander. His commander wants me to make a statement in regards to the case. I go and make the statement. During the statement, I find out the US military was in the process of chaptering the soldier out of the US military. The commander also informed me that he was close to coming up with the money to pay me so he could have the international hold lifted. The commander also asked me if my lawyer would be willing to make a statement. I contacted my lawyer, who also made a statement about the facts of the case. And a few weeks later, his ex-wife contacted me. When this all started, I knew he was married. Guess his wife decided to divorce him. She informed me that his ex-husband had the money and needed the details on how to pay me. I provided her the details, and a few days later I got the payment and contacted his ex-wife to inform her I had been paid. She then asked me to send a receipt so he could have the international hold lifted and return to the States. I asked her how he got the money, and she said he maxed out his credit card and also had family help out. Also during this conversation, I had found out the army had chaptered him out of the military. I sent the receipt, and that was the last I ever heard from his side. TLDR, I get into a fender bender with the soldier. I try to resolve things with him and he punches me. He gets UCMJ action, a civil judgment, 90 days in jail, a divorce, I don't know if the divorce was connected, but I imagine the case didn't help, a ton of debt, and a loss of his career. I took his $80,000 and bought myself a brand new car, and used the rest of the money to put down on an investment property. FAQ, this post blew up. I turned off inbox replies because it was too much, so I felt like answering some common questions. Am I worried about the guy getting revenge on me? No, he's back in the States and I'm still overseas. He most likely has a criminal record, which means he wouldn't even be allowed past immigration. Plus, since then, I've taken a new job and moved, etc. Not connected to this incident, just how things are. Plus, this happened many years ago. The amount seems high. The actual amount was in a foreign currency, and I rounded up and adjusted figures, but it was very high. I did suffer from a black eye, and his behavior after the fact didn't help. Also, this incident happened in an Asian country during a time period in which we had several other high-profile incidences with US service members screwing up. My incident was not high-profile at all, but it all played a role. Honestly, I expected around 15 to 20k, and also in this country, settlements for damages are based upon your ability to pay and tend to be on the higher side. I think the court also thought he was an American and could afford it. However, the amount even shocked my lawyer. Why did his commander recommend I take this to civil authorities? I got the feeling his commander was tired of this soldier. I suspect I wasn't the first incident. What country did this happen in? I don't wish to disclose that, however, several people in the comments section have guessed correctly. Actually, someone who was familiar with the incident PM'd me, so this blew up more than I intended. I will say this, it happened in Asia, in a country with a large troop presence. Why did I go so far? Honestly, that was never my intention. In fact, I decided to report to the military instead of going straight to the local authorities because I figured doing so would allow us to deal with the issue in-house and his punishment would be limited. I was right and he didn't learn his lesson. However, once I got the local authorities / my lawyer involved, it turned into something I didn't expect. Also, by the time that the dust had settled, I had paid my lawyer a significant sum of money, had to use up my vacation days. In total, the entire incident cost me many thousands of dollars in lawyer costs and vacation time, etc. So I did want my money back at that point. Why did he get a jail sentence for simple assault? So in this country, they don't like to give suspended sentences to foreigners. I suspect a local national would have gotten a suspended sentence. I do have a local national friend who was involved in an assault many years ago, and he got 90 days suspended sentence. However, my guess is that the judge gave him jail time instead of a suspended sentence because he was a foreigner. However, I was not very much involved in the criminal case. Questions about his wife/ex-wife. Truth be told, I don't know much about this. I don't know if she was his ex-wife because of this or not. I also never saw his ex-wife in person. The only involvement I had with her was at the very end. Lay off a third of the team and expect us to work harder? We will see about that. So this happened sometime in the 2010s, somewhere in the UK. That's all I'm revealing. I worked for a medium-sized PLC in a small team that worked with the sales department getting quotes. I had previously worked in another team in a different department in the same company as well. This also includes elements of malicious compliance, and I'll post this there as well. So to set the scene, the company had recently had some issues with regulators, and senior management were either oblivious to the damage they were doing or simply didn't care. They were trying to save costs, but going about it all the wrong way. So my team consists of 6 team members and a manager. We were fairly busy and often helped out on other teams as well, and they would help in turn. This is important for later. So we're called into a meeting without warning and told that due to declining work tickets, they were laying 2 of us off. They did say 2 people were safe, the manager and his sidekick. They made us reapply for our jobs, including doing a test, following the letter of the law on redundancy, which had nothing to do with our roles. It also became apparent during the process that the company flat out lied, or at the very minimum manipulated the data used to come up with their conclusion of failing ticket numbers. They dropped by 13 from year 1 to year 3. Bear in mind, it was a total of several thousand tickets a year. In the end, the company carried on and 2 team members were removed and made redundant, one of whom took a golden handshake, the other sued the company for various things. Not really worthy of mention here, but they won. After the dust settled, it also became apparent the manager secured his sidekick's position despite him being the worst member of the team in terms of work done and work quality. So in the weeks after, the entire team were too busy to help other teams, who then stopped helping us. So a huge backlog of tickets also built up, and we also were threatened with disciplinary proceedings if our backlog didn't come down, but also refused any overtime. During the process, we had also been admonished for skipping steps and getting quotes, steps that often took a significant amount of time and served no purpose. So me and 2 others remaining, not including Sidekick, who has his nose so far up manager's rear end it came out of his mouth, decided to do everything by the book, down to every last bullet point. This made the backlog of work even worse, but they couldn't say anything. One week, we had another meeting with the HR sales director and our manager to discuss the issue. We all calmly said, "We're sorry, but we have to follow the guidelines and rules laid down, and this is as fast as we can work." We were also asked to start helping out the other teams again, as we should be team players. Again, we said we're sorry, but we can't. Our workloads are too high, and it's not in our contracts that we have to do other teamwork. This went on for several months, and management still refused to believe that we were overworked. When it was time for holidays, we realized they hadn't changed the amount of people allowed off from 3. So we all booked holidays. They both went abroad, and I decided to visit family on the other end of the UK. Of course, when manager realized a week before, he went nuts and another meeting with HR was called. We all calmly said sorry, but we checked the rules for our team, and 3 people, out of 4, manager could do what he likes, can be off at any one time. And again stood our ground and went on leave for 2 weeks each. This caused even more chaos at work, and as you can imagine, the sales director after this hatched a plan to get the Indian teams, we had offices in India and other offshore places, to be trained up by us and be able to help us. However, they demanded we fly out to spend weeks there training them. Again, we all refused, as it's not in our contracts to be trainers or to have work abroad. They ignored the fact I didn't have a passport at this point. So, poor old manager and his sidekick traveled out and trained with them for weeks. Eventually, both stayed for over 2 months and failed to train them. We would send low-effort tickets to them, and they would screw it up, and we'd simply say, "Sorry, to fix this we need to do it again." So after 6 months, they gave that idea up entirely. Well, after around a year or so of this, I'm being deliberately vague on timing, so please don't ask about it, we all decided to seek other employment, having found we all could not trust the company or the manager anymore. And we all found roles elsewhere within a week of each other, so we all handed our 4-week notices, again, the letter of our employment contracts, and were due to all leave on the same day. Now, the female member of the team, who was a very learned person, and she revealed in all our contracts, any documentation we create is ours and we can do with it what we wish when we leave. So we hatch a plan. In the final week, we're there and we move all our digital stuff to one location, including all my manuals and cheat sheets from my previous team. They both did the same thing with their previous positions within the company. And on our final day, we bring in our own external drives with IT's help download and removed all documentation, then deleted the copies on the company systems. We all said our goodbyes and at the end of the day, happily told our manager what we had done. He exploded and demanded it back, and we calmly tell him, not according to the letter of our contracts, this, waving drives at him, is ours and we choose to remove it with us. We were later told by friends who remained that the sales director had a fit because now no one was doing quotes for him. Gladly, we all had a great new place and keep in touch. And with that story, my friends, we've reached the end of today's r/ProRevenge. If you liked it, you know what to do. Be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button to stay up to date on all our latest videos. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.